Well, first and foremost, I went ahead and put in the chat the journal prompt for the day. And I think I saw some new folks pop in. So let me throw it again. This is just a couple questions I'll be asking at the end, and you can use this in any which way that you want to for your own healing. You can utilize the questions in your own journal, but it's also a completely fillable PDF. So you can also go ahead and just straight on there, fill out all of your stuff that you want. And so I wanted to get into the topic for the day, which is really all about self care practices for emotional resilience. So, emotional resilience is our ability to bounce back from the kind of crap that life throws at us, right? It's all of the setbacks, all of the challenges, all of that stuff that we're dealing with. But how do we bounce back from that? That's what resilience really is. And self care plays a vital role in maintaining that resilience. And so I want us to get started with going down this road. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay. So before we dive into any specific practices, let's reflect for a moment. How do you currently take care of your emotional well being? And do you feel it's enough? Self care can look different for every single person. So, some people, they might like to journal, but other people, maybe they want to take a walk or they want to meditate or they even just want to go and chat with their friends. This is still self care. I want you to think about whether the things you do they really fill your emotional cup, or potentially is there room for improvement? So tonight we'll look at three key practices that can help build emotional resilience. So first, let's talk about the importance of prioritizing emotional check ins. So, emotional resilience starts with self awareness. If we're not regularly checking in with ourselves, our emotions can build up and become overwhelming. And this is where emotional check ins come in. They're a way to pause and ask, okay, how am I really feeling right now? So, checking in with yourself doesn't have to be some big formal process. It can be something as simple like taking a few deep breaths throughout the day and noticing any tension or stress in your body. And some people find journaling really helps. I know I have a client who loves keeping a notes app on her phone. And so she sets an alarm for every couple hours. She checks in with herself. How am I doing? What's going on? And any kind of additional thought processes around that. And it really has been helping her to identify, oh, look, I feel this way during this part of the day. Feel this way during this part of the week. It allows you to get your thoughts out. And you could do this on paper or on a phone or on your laptop, but it's about exploring how certain situations can make you feel. And mindfulness practices are another great way to check in with your emotions. So, whether it's meditating for a minute or 10 minutes or a half hour, or just simply even just sitting in silence for a few moments, mindfulness creates space to acknowledge your feelings instead of pushing them away. Oftentimes, I like to spend about 5 or 10 minutes when I first wake up of just sitting in my thoughts. And for a really long time, I thought that this was just my lazy way of never wanting to get out of bed. And I used to be like, oh no, like the alarm goes off, I need to get up. And I realized that didn't work for me. Like I need to take a moment to be mindful in the morning. And so a couple times, if I hit my snooze, but then all of a sudden I say, okay, this is my 5 minute mark to process my day. What do I want my day to go like? What do I have going on in the morning, in the afternoon? How do I want to feel for the day? This is my mindfulness that I'm doing for just 5 or 10 minutes when I'm just first waking up in the morning. But the key here is to make it a regular practice, not just something you do when things get tough. So, by building self awareness through emotional check ins, you give yourself the chance to process emotions before they turn into something that's a little bit more overwhelming. And now we're trying to play catch up versus being able to proactively care for ourselves. So the second point that the second key point here is creating healthy boundaries. This is a critical but often overlooked form of self-care. Boundaries help protect our emotional energy. Without them, we are more likely to become emotionally drained, resentful, and burnt out. So think about it. How often do you say yes to something when you really want to be saying no? So whether it's agreeing to a social event, when you're feeling exhausted, or taking on extra work because you don't want to let someone down, these decisions slowly chip away at your emotional resilience. Setting boundaries doesn't make us selfish. In fact, it's an act of respect for both yourself and for the other people in your life that you're setting this boundary with. By saying no, when you need to rest or take space or find time to recharge, you are ensuring that you have the emotional resources available when you truly need them. And see, this can mean limiting work or limiting your social commitments or even setting time aside each day just for yourself. But these boundaries are going to actually help you to connect better with the people in your life. Boundaries can also be emotional. So, for example, if you're someone who tends to take on other people's problems very often, those of us with a lot of empathy, maybe you're an empath or you're a highly sensitive person, you might need to set limits on how much emotional labor you're actually willing to provide in your relationships. And those can be the really hard boundaries where we have to, say to our mom or our sister or our best friend, like, I don't have the bandwidth for this right now, but can we schedule in a coffee chat for next week? This is how we can set these beautiful boundaries that are like bridges, where we allow people in and out of our lives as we have the capacity to do it. But what happens if we let 100 people onto our bridge and we're not ready for that yet? It collapses, which means that no one can access us whatsoever because we've completely shut down and we've pushed everyone away. So, protecting your emotional space is a key part of maintaining your emotional resilience. Now, the third point is to engage in activities that truly recharge you. So, self care isn't just about avoiding stress, it's about intentionally doing things that fill your emotional and mental reserves. So, these are any of those activities that leave you feeling just nourished and energized. The ones that you leave thinking, "Oh, I want to do that again," not the ones that made you leave drained and not drained in a good way, right? There's that drained feeling of just pure adrenaline and exhaustion, but that's like a joy, maybe like at the end of a marathon. You're drained, you're done, but it's the greatest feeling in the world. And then there's drained, like I just had to go and, completely dig out every single weed in my garden. I do not want to be doing that. That's a different kind of drained. I don't want to do that again. So let's think about our hobbies. Where can we find these things that energize us? Do you have any activities that bring you joy and make you feel alive? So it could be painting, gardening. For me, gardening is not a joy. It is a means to an end. But for some people, my goodness, it's like their blank canvas, isn't it? They'll just go out there and garden and just be out there for ages and love it. Maybe they listen to a podcast or some music. Oh, I'm loving these in the chat. Crocheting. Oh, I used to love to crochet, Carla. Yes. Fishing, Stephanie. I love that one. Fishing. I used to fish with my dad a lot. That was a really good one. I'd love to know, what other hobbies do you all have? You can drop them in the chat. Disney. I was thinking that. Theme parks. Yeah, I need to find something here at home that brings me joy. That's actually a beautiful understanding, Amanda, that we can have these really big things. I also love theme parks, as you well know. And at the same time, I can't get to them all the time. And so, what is that thing that brings me joy when I'm at home? And maybe that is just sitting on the couch, getting to mindlessly scroll through my Facebook, reels or something like that. I don't get to do that very often. And every once in a while, I just want to shut off. That actually does bring me joy. But it drains me when I'm doing it as a defense mechanism to shut down and not pay attention. You see how the action itself is not the thing that we're looking at. We're not judging the action. We are looking at the intent behind our hobby. Is it bringing us joy? Is it painting, making blankets for kids? Yeah, see how you're both actively making something and you're giving back. And these are the kinds of hobbies that fill us. And so these activities can be a form of emotional self-care. They remind us to take time for ourselves and do something purely for the enjoyment of it. Exercise is another powerful tool for recharging. Now, it doesn't have to be intense exercising. And again, this is only if you love doing it, but something as simple as a walk in nature. I have this really beautiful pathway near my house. It's a drive to get there, so it's a very intentional walk when I go, but it's this beautiful pathway by a river, and just along the river, if I cut off to the edge over here, I get to go to a Starbucks. And so this is like my little self-care moment where I bring my protein shake, but I go to Starbucks and I get my little double shot of espresso, and I get off the path, I go get it, I come back on the path, and I walk along the river, and I come back, and it's a good hour-long walk. That kind of exercise is recharging to me. What's not recharging to me is group exercise classes like Zumba, where I'm in there and the entire time I am comparing myself to every other single person. And why don't my hips move like hers? And yes, I have a great workout, but I'm drained in a bad way at the end of it. And I'll still do it sometimes because, I would like to figure out how to get a little bit more exercise in my life. But it's not the thing, it's not self-care at that point in time. Are we kind of sensing the difference here between what we're looking for? We're not looking for that action that, the world is telling us to go do because, oh, we need to go, run 3 miles every day. If that doesn't bring you joy, don't do it. Yes, my favorite is Aqua Zumba, but it's so hard to fit that into my schedule. Yeah, I love Aqua Zumba. I used to do that a lot a couple years ago when there was a class nearby me. It's stuff like that that's so, so good. Connecting with supportive people is another self-care place. Right now, you're all experiencing self-care. Well, let's hope, unless this is draining, then, that's fine. But that's probably, you're here because you're trying to learn something. You want to better something about yourself, and you're taking this time for yourself, aren't you? This is a part of self-care. We all have someone in our lives that we can turn to. And now I know when we are stuck in a mindset where we might not think we have that, it can be very hard. But I want to encourage us to at least find that one or two people. And like, you always have this. This right here will always be for you every week. And so that would be a supportive place for you to go. But think about it. Do you have a friend or a family member who makes you feel heard and understood? Spending time with people who uplift us and is a form of emotional nourishment. It reminds us that we're not alone and that our emotional struggles are part of the human experience. So lastly, practicing gratitude can also be incredibly powerful. Take a few moments each day to reflect on what you're thankful for, and this will help shift your mindset from focusing on what's wrong to appreciating what's right. Now, I want to be mindful here. Gratitude does help us build emotional resilience by encouraging us to focus on the positives, even during challenging times. But there's a very nuanced part to this, which is I don't want you shaming yourself if you can't think of something that you're thankful for. This has to come from like a truly somatic physical sensation, location in your body to truly be like, okay, actually, let me think about this. I am so grateful for my bed. Just something like that, and not in I should be grateful for my bed because there's people out there that would never have one. That's not gratefulness. That's now shaming. Can you sense the difference there? And it's important to be mindful of that difference when you're going into a gratitude practice, because we want to be grateful for it, regardless of anything else going on around us. It's just we want to be grateful in our hearts. So it's important to ask yourself, what are the activities that make you feel recharged, and how can you incorporate them more into your daily life? So to recap what we've covered, we have covered the 3 key self-care practices to build emotional resilience. That's prioritizing emotional check-ins, creating healthy boundaries, and engaging in activities that recharge you. So these practices help you build emotional strength over time so that you can handle situations in your life better as they come along without feeling emotionally depleted. And now, before we wrap up, these are part of your journal entries, your journal prompts that I gave you. But here they are here. We could talk about these tonight as well. When was the last time you checked in with your emotional state? And what did you discover? Number 2, What is one boundary you could create this week to protect your emotional energy? It's always a good one. And number 3, what activities help you feel more recharged, and how can you incorporate these into your routine more often? So these are all small steps, but if you just try to implement them, even just this week, for what, we're starting October. So let's do this for the whole month of October. If every Monday or every Sunday we just sat down and asked ourselves these questions for the week, and we just get mindful again of what's going on, we could see amazing shifts in our emotional resilience over time. So thank you all for being here tonight, and for being open to exploring our self-care practices in a deeper way. Emotional resilience is something that I know we can all build over time, and it starts with these small intentional self-care acts. And now if you have any questions, or you want to talk more about how we can incorporate these practices into your life, anything, what it is, now would be the time to go ahead and do that. Whoa. I didn't know you could draw on this, Ashley. That's cool. Did you guys see that?